In the previous section, we covered the buyer-broker exclusive employment agreement, which establishes an exclusive, ongoing representation relationship. Now we move into a more limited alternative, the buyer-broker agreement to show property. This February 2025 form was created in response to the same post-NAR settlement reforms. Just like the exclusive agreement, it includes the mandatory notice. All realtors are required to have a signed written agreement prior to showing a home to a buyer. The difference is scope. This form is typically used for a single property or short-term engagement rather than an extended exclusive relationship. Why this form exists. Post-NAR settlement compliance. After the commission litigation, Realtor, associations nationwide required written agreements before showing property. However, not every buyer wants to sign a 90-day exclusive contract immediately. This form allows compliance with the written agreement requirement, short-term or single property representation, compensation, transparency, defined agency relationship. Scottsdale. Example, a buyer calls about one specific condo they saw online. They are unsure if they want representation beyond that showing. The agent may use this limited form for that specific property rather than a 90-day exclusive agreement. Term of the agreement limited duration. The agreement begins on a specific date and expires at 11:59 p.m. on the stated expiration date. This term is often 1 day, 1 weekend, a few days, or tied to one specific showing. It does not automatically extend to all future purchases unless expanded. Scope of services. What the broker may provide. The form states the buyer engages the broker for viewing property and other real estate services at buyer's discretion, including contract negotiation and advocacy services. This is important. Even though the form may be short-term, if the broker represents the buyer in the purchase contract signed before expiration, compensation becomes due under this agreement. Agency relationship still required. Even under a limited showing agreement, the agency relationship must be documented in the real estate agency disclosure and election form. Arizona license law does not allow informal or undefined representation. Agency must be elected and disclosed. Broker compensation transparency. Still mandatory. Just like the exclusive agreement, this form states clearly, broker compensation is not set by law, nor by any board, association of realtors, multiple listing service, or in any manner other than is fully negotiated between broker and buyer in this agreement. Compensation must be a fixed percentage, a fixed dollar amount, or another clearly defined structure. There can be no open-ended commission expectation. MESA. Example. The buyer agrees to 2.5% if they purchase this specific property. If the seller offers 2%, the buyer may owe the 0.5% difference unless negotiated in the contract. Compensation credit structure. Buyer authorizes the broker to accept compensation from the seller or seller's broker. That amount is credited against the negotiated broker compensation. The broker cannot receive more than the agreed amount from any source. This prevents dual payment scenarios and ensures compliance with transparency rules. Buyer showing instructions and fair housing compliance. The broker must show property listings that fit the buyer's criteria regardless of compensation offered unless the buyer instructs otherwise in writing. This protects against steering or selective showing based on commission differences. The Equal Housing Opportunity paragraph reinforces compliance with federal and Arizona fair housing laws. Brokers may not discriminate or disclose protected class information. When to use this form versus the exclusive agreement. Use the exclusive agreement. When the buyer is actively searching. You expect multiple showings. You will provide ongoing negotiation and advisory services. You want full-term representation protection. Use the showing agreement. When the buyer requests one specific showing. The buyer is not ready for a longer commitment. You need immediate compliance before a property tour. Professional practice. Tip. Many brokers use the limited showing agreement as a bridge to a longer exclusive relationship after trust is established. Risk management considerations. If the buyer signs a purchase contract during the term and closes escrow, broker compensation is due. If the agreement expires before contract execution, compensation protection may not exist. Always ensure the term covers the expected transaction timeline if negotiation is anticipated. Course discussions with answers. Discussion question: why must even a one-time showing require a written agreement in 2025? Answer: because Realtor R. Policy reforms after the NAR settlement require a signed written agreement prior to showing property to establish compensation transparency and representation clarity. Discussion question: if a buyer signs this agreement for one property and later purchases it during the term, is compensation owed? Answer: yes, if the purchase contract was signed before the expiration date and escrow closes. Discussion. Question: why does the form state that compensation is not set by law or MLS? Answer: to comply with antitrust transparency reforms and clarify that broker compensation is fully negotiated between buyer and broker.